Welcome to the Wisedome podcast, a series that is so much more than just a podcast series. This is a movement towards a lifestyle you know you deserve. It's all about the ease of inspiring and sharing your knowledge and experiences online. I'm your host, Nikki, and I have always admired those who share their wisdom, those who have decided to inspire others. Just like my guests, I found my version of inspiring others by sharing my wisdom and created a lifestyle I wanted, and I'm going to share all the secrets for how you can too. On this show, you'll find inspiration, motivation, and advice from experts, as well as valuable tips on how to get started or improve your business. Let's dive into how you can begin and grow your wisdom business. Remember, inspiring others looks different for everyone. How will you inspire? Welcome to the Wisedome podcast. Today we're chatting to Cara. Cara's on a mission to raise world-ready kids who change the world. Call for Parenting is the online community, course and coaching platform she created for new parents that follows the development path for little ones while educating, empowering and engaging parents to be their first and best teacher. Welcome, Cara, to the Wisedome podcast.
Thank you so much for having me here today.
Lovely. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got started and a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. So this has been a lifetime journey of mine. And I started out as a little person, just loving on littles. And then as I grew up through my teenage years and into my education years, I blended my serial nanny careers with my education. And I ended up in a preschool classroom and kindergarten classrooms working with mainstream kids and also working with deaf kids because I have a degree in American Sign Language and linguistics, and it all came full circle. And I noticed as part of these kindergartners kept coming to me year after year, and I said, there's just something that's missing from their comprehensive readiness to really learn in every area of my classroom. And so I stepped away from teaching. And I went back to being a full-time nanny while I was also raising my kids. And I had this really fantastic kind of bookend experience of going back to infancy and toddlerhood with other people's kids while mine were in their tween and teen years.
Yeah.
And I found that I really was tapped into not just how to work with children during those infancy, toddler, and preschool years so that they were ready to go to school and truly learn in every area. But awesome. How to teach parents how to be that child's teacher and give them opportunities to practice their social, emotional, and their interpersonal skills and their physical body control, and obviously their ABCs, 1, 2, 3s, etc. So that's how I got here. And so I've done every job with little people, and now I teach parents how to teach their little people.
That's really lovely. And so as you discovered that, you know what, I want to actually pass these on to the parents so then they can actually concentrate on their kids. How did you actually start the wisdom business, your wisdom business, in actually, you know, what process did you take? Did you think about, you know, should I do a membership or a course or coaching? What was the thought process there when you were thinking about what to do?
Well, I'm a lover of learning as well. So I knew what I knew, which was how to connect with parents and how to teach and create courses. That was easy. I also knew what I didn't know. Right. So I went in search of that knowledge. I joined an accelerator program as a new founder. I took digital marketing courses because I didn't know anything about that online world. I sought out the resources and took the courses I needed. But what I also did is I co-created. I reached out to parents who I already had a very strong relationship with, and I invited them to come in and beta test every course and beta test every coaching program. And we together created something that truly transforms. And I know it because I didn't decide it, they did.
That is valuable information right there for our listeners. If you're looking to start something, it's always important to get that feedback, isn't it? Just as you're growing or testing and trialing. Beta testing is massive. And some of us forget that, don't we? Or we sort of do it a little bit later, and it's fine. Better late than never. But it is a good way of planning out what you want to do. And obviously, yes, being a teacher in the background, of course, you're going to go straight to courses. You know that, and it's easy. So building up that audience then. So let's go to that level then. So you knew what courses you were going to deliver and so forth. How did you build your audience?
That has been a work in progress. I feel like that's another layer of learning that people have to go out and actually educate themselves on, because there's so many ways to do it. One way that I build my audience is by doing what I'm doing right this minute. Yeah, getting on podcasts and having engaging conversations, letting people hear my voice, letting them hear how much this means to me. And often they'll reach out afterwards and say, something you said really struck me. I'd like to know more about it. Another way that I am building my audience is just by kind of giving it all away. I know that sounds a little crazy, but when I have a unique tool that I just feel like it's incredibly valuable, and someone could start implementing it today in their home, and they could see a shift in the way they talk to their toddler, and they could see a shift in the way their toddler responds to them. I want them to get using it right now.
With respect to you starting, and obviously you went out and you got feedback. This is going to lead to my next question. When you did start your wisdom business and start coaching and everything, were there any further lessons that you learned from your audience in it? Maybe not necessarily the content of the courses, but how those courses were delivered, the information provided, etc.?
Yes. And this is super important, and it applies to every content creation company, but you have to know who you're delivering to. I don't do things small. The elephant, too many big chunks. What my audience really needed, because these are parents and they're busy and they're focused and they have jobs. They truly want to continue to tap into who they are outside of being a parent and a partner and an employee too. Like, there's a lot there. They wanted on-demand digital content that it was bite-sized, easily digestible. And so that's where I started. I created a digital course suite that starts in the 3rd trimester of pregnancy and follows the developmental path of the young child to 1 year old and keeps you, the parent, one step ahead, so you're not surprised when that next big leap happens.
What's happening next? Yeah.
To meet them where they are at and what they need as consumers and what's most valuable in that moment is important. But then I'd also say be really true to your creative spirit, because for me, as much as I love that, as much as I love getting in front of the camera and just recording it and, phantomly popping into your inbox with the thing that you purchased, knowing that it's out there, making a difference on a daily basis, what truly feeds my soul is the coaching, is the group programming and bringing people together and seeing their faces and hearing their voices as we learn and grow through the curriculum. So don't give up on the thing that feeds your creative soul, but make sure that you're tapping into what your audience needs from you. And then the subset of people who really need more from you will find you out at that next level.
Interaction is a huge part, isn't it, when it comes to, obviously, with what you're doing here, especially with kids, interaction. And that would lead me to my next question. Coming from that teaching background, the education background with communicating with children at, a particular stage, level, whatever that is, and also with the different, for hearing impaired people and so forth. How have you seen a difference with how you share and relate your teachings, your wisdom, between obviously what children have to learn and then what parents, how they learn?
So here's my linguistics degree coming out. And I often tell people, if you can win the toddler stage, If you can learn how to use language intentionally, understand the psychology behind the words you're choosing, create the opportunities for collaborative problem solving, you're using every single skill that you need, not only to thrive through those teenager years, but to talk to your coworker at the water cooler and to diffuse potential power struggle with your husband. Like all the same. Obviously the content changes.
Yeah.
And we work developmentally, right? With little kids, we use sentences 6 words or less. We can string a bit more together for our older kids and for our adult friends. Same psychology.
Do you have a little tip there on the psychology that you use?
Absolutely. Create an invitation.
Right.
We're going to notice the problem, right? I can see what we're struggling with here. I have an idea how we might be able to solve it. Do you? And why don't you tell me your idea first?
I remember when I was studying communication, and that was the one. It was always invite, talk to them, and in negotiations and everything like that. When you went through that process of, obviously building your audience, and we're always constantly building our audience, as we're building our businesses and so forth. Was there a particular experience that you have gone through that you'd like to share with our audience? It could be a good experience or a challenging experience that you might want to share with someone that really stands out?
I have an interesting one, I think. So in building this, I have come from lots of different angles, right? I'm looking, obviously, I work directly to my clients or my consumers, but I also have opportunities where we're looking at partnerships and we're looking at more of like a B2C model, or even I call it a B2D, up to a distribution space. And for me, that looks like schools and early childhood education centers. And I had this one experience where I made the biggest mistake that any creative content or entrepreneur can make. And I assumed they were not my target audience. I did the right thing in going and doing the event anyway, and was incredibly surprised that just because they didn't match up with my target persona demographic the way it was up on my wall,
right,
they did line up with my messaging and the heartfelt personal development piece that I build into the early childhood education experience for new parents. And I thought, wow, I'll take that as a lesson learned.
Don't be too narrow-minded this is because, again, you just don't know, do you? You don't know everyone's situation. And what was it? Can I ask what that situation was? The audience?
Yeah.
Was?
Interestingly, I live very rural. I live in southern Vermont in the US. And so I really had this notion that my soulmate customer, this persona that everyone has you create, is an urban person. And I went and I did a relatively local event for my rural people. And I thought, I live here. I founded the company here. I'm going to give back here. I was thinking of it more as that type of thing. Yeah. And it turned out I was completely wrong.
What do you mean? You're completely wrong.
It turned out that just because of the demographics of my tiny little rural villages here where I live, just because the income ratio is significantly less than it would be in urban areas, just because it didn't tick all those boxes. These people, these moms, these dads, and even the early childhood educators were blown away by the theory of mind. And they were excited to take the next step and shift their mindset and apply some real perspective and make some actionable choices about proactive parenting. So it's so easy to get stuck, especially if you take those business classes like I told you I did. Okay, here are the steps that are going to make this impactful and successful, but they're not always the right steps.
Correct. And I agree with that. And I think a lot of people will agree with that. But it's a good point to make there, as you mentioned, with your audience and discovering that your audience is broader than what you presumed. And it's a very common misconception, I think. No one knows who's going to be knocking on your door and saying, hello, I need some help. You don't know if it's a grandmother having to take care of a toddler all of a sudden, or you just don't know, do you? The demographics can really change and be quite broad than what you expect. And I think it was all a great lesson to learn, isn't it? How have you gone, like you had that moment there where you saw your audience being inspired by what you were sharing with them? Is there a particular, I don't know, moment that you had with any parent, any child even, where it just gave you that moment of, oh, I'm doing the right thing here? Like, have you had a moment there with a particular client or parent that you just went, oh, this is fantastic, we're getting through it?
I've had so many. Yeah. One particular over the last, who had a COVID baby, right? So this has been a huge challenge that on 28 different levels, having a child during the time of COVID has been hard, but then parents collectively are realizing that their children are not having the opportunity to socialize and become emotionally literate through interactions with other kids their own age.
Yeah.
So they're missing this huge chunk. So this mom has been very attuned to that and constantly asking for support around it, and also really wanted to make sure routines and structures were consistent inside her home so that she was giving her child these skills right out of the gate. And so I'll never forget, she did our sleep soothing system. Mm-hmm. And so, at 4 months old, her little girl was falling asleep all by herself, soothing herself, falling back to sleep by herself, and only crying out for help if she truly needed something because she couldn't regulate. And it was probably a good 4 months later, she and I were on a coaching call, and I heard the monitor in the background. And it was unlike this little one to wake up after falling asleep. And so I watched this mom very carefully. She got very still. She picked up the monitor. She looked at it. It's like, those moments where you can just see the wheels turning in someone's head?
Yeah.
The wheels turned and she wanted to go check on her, but she took a deep breath. She looked at me and she said, I'm going to give her a few minutes and see if she can settle herself back. And she did. And we had a huge celebration moment. Not because this little girl put herself back to sleep, because we know they wake up, right? They dream or they have body aches or they're teething, whatever. Not because she put herself back to sleep, but because this mom had this moment of, I am confident that my child can do this. I feel safe to let her try for herself. Like, we just danced on our little call and we just celebrated. Yeah.
Oh, so that's what that gave me tingles in, because it's about parents and their confidence. That's the word right there. How would you say you've grown personally in the way you actually share your wisdom then? Obviously, through all those experiences that you've had, how have you grown personally?
I'm a huge believer that we're never done growing. We're never done learning. That as much as I teach parents that they are in relationship with their kids, learning and growing together, and it's a lifelong journey, I get into these deep relationships with my clients and we learn and grow from each other. And so I'm just always evolving. And I don't want it to stop. I love taking the journey with them. I love when they call me out and they say, what I needed from you today was, I love that. I love hearing, because it just helps me learn how to hold them up when they need holding, and then how to lower the net and let them give things a try and feel their own success and their own achievement. And that's when I feel my most success and achievement.
And I think it's good too, especially when you're coaching people, that they have the confidence as well to ask and reevaluate and say, actually, could you really help me here? Like that is a great interaction there when you are coaching and teaching, or just, sharing your wisdom at any level. I think that is amazing when you can have that trust and interaction with with your audience. What advice would you give to anyone out there that could possibly be looking to start a wisdom business, whether it be particularly in your area, the industry of education and children per se, or just in general?
So what I've learned with interacting with all kinds of people in wisdom businesses over the last 18 months is don't let not having credentials stop you. I just so happen to have a back pocket of them that lend some validity to what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But even if I didn't, the massive amount of exploring and learning and observing and growing that I've done with hundreds of children since I was one myself would have been enough to bring this level of awareness and support and strategy to new moms really looking to become conscious, proactive, collaborative participants, because that's the way that things are shifting now. And we need to ride that wave. So, whatever your zone of genius is, do your best to make the gremlins go away and just say, I have worthy knowledge and this knowledge needs to be shared.
Get rid of that imposter syndrome. We all have experience. And that's what we say with wisdom. Wisdom is knowledge plus experience. And experience is a huge part of it. Experience is a huge part of it. So that's wonderful advice. That's really, really good. You're best known, from my perspective anyway, learning a little bit about you and so forth, is patience you have. From what I've seen and listened to on a few occasions, you're very patient, really absorb, like in our conversation that we're having now, like I'm asking the questions, you really take time to listen and so forth. And this is probably just answering the question right there by saying this. Why do you think people resonate with the way you approach your teachings?
Patience is definitely part of it, but it's the gateway to observation. And all my teachings come from kind of a triple layer perspective of how are we going to be our best body, mind, and self. And I think that's why it's so resonant, because people hit me up all the time and say, can you just give me a strategy for this? And I'm like, I'm sorry, I can take you through the process of observing the mindset that you're currently in and applying some perspective so that you can see things from your child's eyes too. And then I can give you a strategy that you can use. But we have to do one before we do the other. And I think that's why it's so impactful, because those three things together create transformation.
A side question I like to ask my guests, and that is, what legacy are you looking to leave? Whether it be personal or through business, whether it's just this year or whether it's lifetime.
Legacy. Well, I mean, I would have to say, to some degree, I feel like I'm already living it. I have a 17 and a 19-year-old. And so I'm at the promised land of what I teach, which is personalized parenting mission statement and who it is that you want to put out into the world and what their qualities of characteristics and values and morals and kind of the ooziness of who they are, no matter what they do. And I feel very blessed to say I am putting two really amazing humans into the world. Long-term legacy is that feeling for all the mamas and all the papas that I get to work with over the next 20 years. So their just born child, now they're feeling this 20 years from now.
Lovely. You've been amazing to chat to today, Cara. It's just been lovely hearing, your story for one, and the journey that you've taken into actually sharing amazing gift you have and passing that on, to parents and enabling them to see their kids get to the level that you're at and the satisfaction that you have. And I know, as every parent, and I'm a parent as well, I know my children will be fantastic and so forth as, when they get older. But it's really appreciative when you have someone out there such as yourself who can help just give you the little guides. We're not given a parenting guide at any point. And when it comes to toddlers, the rush of emotions, their environments are so exciting. You can just imagine how exciting it is for them, and to help them articulate that, both you and them. Those moments that I have to say personally always get me every time my child, like my firstborn, when she first said her first full sentence with me, I broke down. I was like, oh my God, this child is explaining. And it was a beautiful moment because I was able to communicate at a level that I just felt like we've got it. We've got a sync now going. It's not just on the body language. It's not just on the pointing. There was more to it. And having those moments of really connecting with your child is so, so important. And what you're doing is amazing. I really think it's just so enabling for parents to really, really just connect even further and more with their children. So it's really beautiful what you're doing, which leads me to the question, do you have a particular offer you'd like to share with our audience today?
Absolutely. Yeah. So you were talking about eloquently how it lights parents up when they feel like they can effectively communicate with their kids. A couple things. One, if you have a little person, based on what you just said with communication being so valuable, who is 6 to 12 months old, I created a course called Sign to Speak. And it is 24 signs taught over 24 days so that you can spiral up towards mastery and you become a master really fast. And you can communicate with your children before they can talk to you because they can sign so much longer before they can talk. I picked the 24 English words that we say, or the 24 words that we say to our children the most between birth and 18 months.
Yeah.
And I used those as building block signs. Mm-hmm. And then I break it down in each category.
Yep.
Is based on age. So we do basic needs, and then we move on to health, hygiene, and safety. And then we move on to needs, wants, and desires. And they grow from birth to a 6-month mark to a 9-month mark, and evolve as your child does. So if you have a little person, that is something that you could look into. It's one of those digital courses that I said, I fly into your inbox every day. If you have a slightly older person, mm-hmm. between 1 and 5, our coaching program runs every quarter. So we start in April, we'll start again after that in July, and that's a deep dive. And you get me, and we talk like this, and you can get lots of me if you want to add on to the one-on-one packages. And we run through all the layers that you need, and you are left with a personalized parenting toolkit because there is no manual. Who your child is unique. Who you are is unique. So I help you handpick the strategies and scripts that work for your child.
Right. That's really good. Customized. That's good. Well, thank you so much again, Cara, for your time. You've been amazing to chat to. And for our listeners, all the details to Cara's offer will be in our podcast summary below. Be sure to click on the links and don't forget to subscribe to the Wisedome podcast. Thanks for listening. And thank you again, Cara.
I've had a true pleasure speaking today.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thanks for listening to the Wisedome podcast. If you enjoyed and have been inspired by this episode and you'd like to support the podcast, do subscribe and please share it with others. Post about us on social media or leave a rating and review. To catch all the latest from me, Nikki Kelly, you can follow me on Instagram at Wisedome Podcast, WISEDOME podcast. I'm Nikki Kelly. Thanks again, and we'll catch up next time.